Hey, Professor Cat here, Dr. K. Back again about Chapter 11, which is additional groups of victims of special problems. This chapter focuses on specific groups of people and where crime can occur. This could be at a college. It could be at a workplace. It could be a member of a police department. So there's lots of different determining factors on what makes someone part of a special group and different ways we can analyze these type of situations and try to prevent them from happening. So one of the things that's really predominantly in the media in the US recently, school shootings, and this falls under the special group category. And this is something that I never saw in my growing up days. I didn't go to I didn't live in a real nice neighborhood, but my school was pretty safe. Very rarely did something happen. It wasn't till junior high that I saw some violence occur against a teacher. But the school shootings as we know it today weren't happening. When we had special training, we had the hide your head under your desk training for a nuclear attack. We weren't being trained for active shooters. And this, along with things like workplace violence, and again, violence at colleges, which is, of course, another school, but we're dealing with mostly adults in that type of environment. I've been through active shooter training at a on-ground campus, and it's very sobering and kind of scary to even have to go through that. And what are your thoughts on the prevention of things like school shootings, since that's really prominent and something that's really talked about a lot? Is there a solution? I feel personally that it's more of a mental health solution than a gun solution, but I am open for debate. There's a lot of things that occur in our society that there's multiple, so there could be multiple solutions to the problem, depending on what your viewpoint is. Victims of these types of situations also, just like many other crimes, but I think it's a little more exaggerated or increased, maybe exaggerated is the wrong word, that there are a lot more secondary victims. So we have our first victim, who is the victim of the crime. And then we have the secondary victims, which are most often, people who observe the crime occurring. So in a school shooting type of situation, a college shooting type of situation, maybe mass violence, someone goes into a grocery store, starts shooting, kills a bunch of people, there's a lot of secondary victims and how those people are handled. Some people don't always take the trauma that is inflicted on secondary victims as seriously as they would that of a primary victim. And everyone reacts to trauma very, very differently. I was at a call once where it was a double fentanyl overdose in a safe house. There were 4 people living in the house. 2 of the people passed away. And the other 2 people that were still living there had been in the house all day before they finally decided to check on these people and realized that they were deceased. One of the people who survived, who was still alive, was kind of a 40-something-year-old guy that had been in and out of rehab and everything, and he was like totally calm. He just said, I've been in and out of rehab. I've seen this I don't know how many times. It is what it is. The other person, other roommate, was a younger female. She was absolutely traumatized. She had never seen a dead person before. She didn't know what they looked like. She couldn't believe she'd been in the house all day just doing her laundry and everything and acting normal while her roommates were dead in the next room. So two people that saw the same thing. They entered the room at the same time. They saw the same thing with very different trauma responses. One of them had already been through it. The other one, this was probably the first time she'd ever seen anything like this. So it's very important to remember that everyone has a different response to this. And that doesn't mean that their trauma or their response to that is better or worse than any others. That we also have what's called a delayed response. It could be someone sees something and they feel fine, and then a few months later they're starting to have a lot of problems, and it extends back to witnessing that traumatic event. So you always have to remember that victims are as varied as the number of victims themselves. And we have to take that in consideration with dealing with victims of crime, in that it could be months or even years before some of that surfaces, and that we need to make sure that they are aware of the resources that are available in those specific situations. So thanks for listening. As always, my door is open if you'd like to chat. Have a great day.